If you've ever felt that sinking feeling when a hot deal grinds to a halt because of a security questionnaire, then you are in the right place. We're going to break down how you can turn that chaotic, last-minute scramble into a smooth system that actually helps you close deals faster. Sound familiar? You've got the verbal yes, everyone's high-fiving, and then, boom, procurement sends over the questionnaire. Suddenly, that solid deal feels like it's on shaky ground, and your best engineers are stuck hunting for screenshots at midnight. It's a classic B2B startup story, turning a win into a week-long fire drill.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. The goal here is to give you a real, practical playbook to get your team out of that reactive panic mode and into a state of proactive confidence. This is about way more than just answering questions. It's about building a machine for trust that closes bigger deals with a whole lot less pain. So, why do these reviews go off the rails so often? Most people assume it's because they're missing some big certification or a super complex security control. But here's the truth. Most of the time, the delay is because the answers you send over just don't feel coherent. They look like they were stitched together in a panic, and that vibe alone erodes trust before the buyer even gets into the nitty-gritty details. And this quote right here is everything. It's a total mindset shift. The procurement team on the other side doesn't see your heroic all-nighter. They don't care about the effort. What they see is a messy, inconsistent package, and they just assume your internal security is just as messy. A clean, consistent, and really well-organized response, that screams maturity. That's what gets rewarded. Okay, so to build that coherence, we've got to know what we're up against. We need to diagnose what's actually going wrong. And it turns out, most of the mistakes fall into three big buckets. You can think of them as the three cardinal sins of security reviews. Contradiction, where marketing says one thing and engineering says another. Overclaiming, where you make these big, sweeping statements you can't really back up. And poor evidence, where your proof doesn't actually prove anything at all. Let's dive into that first trap, contradiction. This happens all the time. Your sales deck is polished, it's beautiful, and it says you have enterprise-grade controls. Sounds great. But then the questionnaire goes to the engineering team, and they give a more honest, technical answer, like in-progress hardening. Now, to you, that might just be nuance. But to a buyer, that is a massive red flag. It makes them question everything else you've told them.
All right, trap number 2 is a bit more subtle, overclaiming. You might think a big, confident statement like, "We're encrypted everywhere," is a good thing. But for a security professional, that vague claim just creates more questions. Where? How? With what algorithms? A precise scoped claim, on the other hand, like saying you use AES 256 for data at rest and TLS 1.2 plus for data in transit, that answers the questions before they're even asked. It shows you know what you're talking about.
And finally, we got the poor evidence trap. And this one can sink the whole ship. Your answers can be perfectly written, but if your evidence is weak, it's all for nothing. A screenshot without a date or a timestamp, that's not evidence, it's just a picture. A policy document with no owner or approval date, it looks like something you wrote 5 minutes ago. Your evidence has to be clean, clear, and context-rich to actually build confidence.
So, how do we fix this? How do we escape these traps? The solution is to stop reinventing the wheel with every single deal. You need to build an answer once, reuse 50 times system. And the core of that system, the beating heart of it, is what we call a canonical response library. It's your single source of truth for everything security-related.
Now, this is not just a messy shared drive folder with a bunch of old answers. No. A real canonical response library is a living, breathing system. Every single answer is version controlled. It has a specific owner, a person who's responsible for keeping it accurate. It has a last review date so buyers know it's not stale. And crucially, every answer is linked to pre-approved high-quality evidence. This is the structure that kills the chaos.
And this system works in a really simple, repeatable 4-step loop. First, intake triage. When a request comes in, you quickly decide if it's a light, standard, or deep review so you know how much effort to put in. Second, you pull your answers directly from the canonical library, no more making things up on the fly. Third, you attach that clean, pre-approved evidence. And fourth, and this is key, you run a quick mock review every quarter to make sure nothing is drifted. This turns the whole process from a frantic art project into a calm science.
And the results are very, very real. The source material actually calculated that a team handling about 6 reviews a month saves over 12.5 hours of work every single month. That is more than a full workday of your team's time that you get back. Time you can spend building your product instead of answering questionnaires. That is a serious return on investment.
So let's talk about the ultimate prize here, because it's not just about saving time. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with enterprise buyers. When you have this system in place, you stop just reacting and answering questions. You start proactively building confidence. You're demonstrating a level of maturity and organization that big companies are desperately looking for.
So take a look at this and be honest. Where's your team right now? Are you down in Tier 1, where every answer is ad hoc and chaotic? Or are you getting closer to Tier 5, where you have a reusable packet and a predictable, low-friction process? This map shows you the path. It's about adding these layers of discipline, owners, review dates, mapped evidence, to systematically climb that ladder to a faster, smoother sales cycle.
And this really is the bottom line. The goal isn't to look perfect, nobody is. The goal is to prove that you are disciplined. Enterprise buyers know you're not going to be flawless, but what they absolutely demand is precision, consistency, and claims that they can actually verify. It's all about being provable, not just polished.
So, how do you get started? Look, you don't have to build this whole system overnight. The key is to start small. Here's your homework. This week, just identify the top 25 questions you get asked over and over again. For each one, assign one owner, find your single best piece of evidence, and put a review date on it. That's it. That one simple action is the first step to replacing that midnight screenshot scramble for good.